and then I'm about done.
Okay, wow,
Yeah.
yeah. But you've been going like close to 12 today, huh?
Well, yeah. It's usually just a 12-hour recording, but
O-
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The later part of the recording is usually just recorded footage. I mean, but yeah, we had a lively panel discussion earlier. About a range of issues, Daoism, uh also Ray Kurzweil. We watched some videos on physics. We had a couple people restreaming. So yeah, it was a pretty eventful night, I guess. But yeah, yeah,
Good
but
good
blessings, brother. Yeah,
Yeah, blessings to you, man. Good stuff. Yeah, I just hit the restream button. Just I don't know. Do you have a minute
okay,
to chat for a second?
of course. Yeah,
Are
yeah,
we
of course. Yeah, that's why I'm here for you. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Good. Thank you, man. Are we
You know,
on air right now or are we behind the scenes?
we're on air on the machine lines, but we'll be offline in about 14 minutes or so. But you're restreaming, so it'll be fine. You'll have the
Oh,
recording. So yeah.
okay, awesome. Yeah. So like you're way more well versed in like a wide range of the understanding of a lot of these topics than I am. I'm much more of a layman. So I do have questions, and a lot you talk about I jive with and I get it, but again, your range is just so like voluminous and extensive that I can't keep up by any means. So I just want to admit that right off the jump, so that you know what you're dealing with a little bit. As far as Taoism, though, I've got a pretty good handle, and I've been practicing Taoist magic for about 25 years, and I've been doing Solomonic magic for about the same length of time, maybe a little longer. So my curiosity was this, and you could just be as forthright as you want. You don't if you don't want to answer a question, that's fine, or just convey to me whatever's within the scope of your willingness to do
Here,
so.
hold on. Here, hold on 1 second. Let me see if something's possible. Lilith, are you there? Maybe not. Maybe he is. Maybe not. Yo, what's going on? Yeah, this is my friend who practices magic here. I mean, he's still here. Maybe.
Okay, cool. Lilith, are you there? Yeah. No.
Yeah, yeah, maybe not. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'll throw.
No.
Yeah, I'll throw him
No
in the back.
worries.
Maybe,
But
but
I wanted to know a little bit of your perspective too, because I've been watching you for a while, and I've seen you popping up on other
because that would
shows.
have been that would have been a fun try. Just here's my magical friend. But yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Because
Blessings.
you've like you said, you go on Jack Talcott sometimes. Sometimes you go on Flow Stream. Do you go on other chats as well? I guess you probably do.
Not that many I've been to because, as you see, the current panel dynamics are a little, stupefying. I mean, so I mainly just okay. Here he is, actually. Yeah, yeah. But the current dynamics are a little stupefying. So I just
Yeah, I've been calling it the Jerry Springer effect. It seems like that's what drives their numbers a lot of times.
yeah. So yeah, I
It
steer clear of most of the panel situations, and I've also had lots of interactions, though. And I've kept my eye on the entire situation. So
good.
different names and actors. So I could tell you probably more about these panels than the people that are on them. You know,
Oh wow.
but
Yeah, good looking
yeah,
out.
yeah. So that's actually true. But the fact is, I'm not very impressed by a lot of the behavior out there. So I do a little bit of a different show. I just do a 2-hour solo presentation, right?
Okay.
And that's usually centering around Jacques Ellul this time. You know, um, Before it was a range of topics, and but now I'm painstakingly working my way through the book Technological Society by Jacques Ellul, and for the audience, and then yeah, and then we move into open discussions on Taoism, which is a little bit of a
Awesome.
different,
Awesome.
flavor. I mean, right?
So
Yeah, where you have an open panel, but the discussions are geared towards the text of the Tao, right? Which is
okay.
strange.
Nice, nice. That's right up my alley. So
Yeah,
that would be the top of the hour, like when you first start streaming, right? You would do the first 2 hours of study, and then you would go into the discussions. Is that correct?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then when discussions are over, then you like have been restreaming some other things, like some past streams. Is that's what's happening?
Well, I mean, I play music, I let the panel discussion go, and then I come back and present information on Kaczynski. So then we go through the works of Kaczynski.
Okay.
So it's quite an adventure. but then but then after that, yes, I play some panel discussions, and some of those are controversial because
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are discussions with the internet figures. Like today we had a discussion with Claire Hall, who's pretty much a controversial figure on the
Okay.
internet. But yeah, but yeah, I'm promoting some of her work now.
Okay.
Uh,
What does that
yeah.
entail? What's it all about?
Well, she wants white people to adopt Sharia
Oh
because she
wow.
feels that Christianity has failed and it's led to liberalism, right? So she thinks that essentially the Christian lifestyle has been taken over by liberalism, right? So it's been defeated, right? But Islam remains in the face of liberalism. So she's saying that white people should adopt some secularized form of Sharia in order to save their society. So that's a very controversial view that not many not many of the whites are willing to support. And then you get a lot of like white nationalist type of trolls.
Well, yeah, I would personally find it a tough pill to swallow just because I live, the way I do inside of China, and I prefer Taoism myself because I feel like it's the low ground and it's more accepting of people's faults. Whereas I feel like Sharia is a little bit too extreme for most Caucasian folks, and I don't think it would I
well,
just don't think it would
well, on
necessarily
the
benefit them.
contrary, on the contrary, there's 3 million Muslims in China, right? Over, right? So this is in the
Yeah,
Xinjiang, yeah, yeah. So this is in the Xinjiang province. You know, so historically speaking, Islam has survived in China, right? So,
yeah, 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 absolutely.
yeah, yeah, and there's parts of China where Buddhists and you know, some of the Muslims don't have very good relations. So we might think, oh yeah, Islam not very open, Buddhism very open, but some of those Buddhist, guys say, they don't let their daughters marry a Muslim guy, right? So, so
Well,
there's a lot of discrimination. Especially in the
it,
Xinjiang province. Right, where
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Chinese government sets up smart cities. They basically discriminate against their Muslim population. They treat them like fucking
Right.
Palestinians, right? So,
Yeah,
so yeah. So
like
on the contrary, yeah, yeah. So
laborers.
yeah, yeah. So it's the thing, see, that's the thing. Anytime somebody says, "Oh, well, Islam is going to hurt us," I say, "Well, look at the Muslim woes."
Well,
right,
and
right. So then,
and I would
yeah.
agree with you on both points. I do believe that I don't have any real direct experience with the Muslim per se, but I agree with you like on the point of Buddhism also being a little bit too constraining, and that's why I would just reiterate that I think Taoism isn't strong enough in that sense that it could do what this woman is proposing that Sharia might be able to do. So I think that it like
Oh
from its
yeah, because I don't think that Taoism. I don't think that one can construct a legal system through Taoism, right?
no,
So
no,
yeah,
no.
that would not be possible, right? So and that's why a lot of but what else is true is that there's been a lot of Islamic scholars that are masters of Confucian,
Right.
of Confucianism, and there's many, you could look up on, even on Wikipedia, list of Islamic Confucian scholars from China. There's a whole
Okay.
list of them, right?
Yeah, I don't doubt it
So
at all.
yeah, yeah. So it's fascinating because there is legal systems within Confucianism. Now we talked about how
Certainly.
Confucianism and Taoism, they not only deal in different things, but they're philosophically a little bit different as well, right? Now, obviously, Islam is not in line with either of them, but I'm just mainly just saying because the idea that there's one indescribable quality to everything, right, and that is
Mm.
part of I guess Allah, right? So that is fundamentally Taoist, so that is a place where Islam is more Taoist than Christianity, right? But in a way that
Right.
is less Taoist than Christianity is the legal system, right? So the fact is that Taoists would not construct a legal system, and that's why I've actually said today on my show, may or may not be a controversial statement, but I said A, that Lao Tzu is one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived, and B, that um that the Tao Te Ching is a philosophical work, right? It's not a religious work, and I don't think
Oh,
it's a scientific work, right?
agreed.
So
Agreed.
yeah, because and that's where I bring in things like metaphysics, because you can make statements about cosmology and not make it in a religious context, not affirm any religious position, right? So right,
Right. Right.
I don't think that Lao Tzu was trying to turn his quote unquote philosophy into a religious system, and he definitely didn't want it to devolve into a legal system. So he actually
Right.
says that in the Tao Te Ching, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm very much you know interested in that. Now there are forms of theological speculation that don't reach for ultimate truth, like Buddhism, right? So,
Mm.
so there's many different concepts, and in terms of philosophy, I said that obviously Lao Tzu makes unique statements in terms of metaphysics, in terms of ethics, and and in terms of epistemology, right? So he's got
And
some central themes that are very much different from other ideas. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say, you're probably, well, there's two things I wanted to mention. One is that you're right about Muslim, I guess it's Islam or Muslim. How should I refer to it as with the Chinese people?
Islam, yeah.
Islamics. Okay, so they do have really large communities, even here in Beijing. In fact, there's an entire street called like Niujie, like where my wife's mother's mother used to live. And for like our beef, we go exclusively there because they have the highest quality beef. And so,
So you're glad the Muslims are there.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
funny.
so far, like as far as like a living system, they're apparent, and they have a huge enclave like all over China. They have like really a presence, whereas Dao does not. Dao has temples, and they have people that study and practice it, but it's
Yeah,
not like
and
it's
actually,
not a living thing.
yeah, look at Falun Gong, where Taoism has essentially been weaponized, right? Right. So
Right.
yeah, and so and I talk about that too. Right? I talked about that obviously with Confucianism big time because I'm a Taoist. So I was like, yeah, Confucianism bad, Taoism good.
Right. Right.
But obviously it's not that simple. I tried to be very, very faithful to Confucianism. So I'm not gonna say I was that
Well,
free balling with it, but yeah, the scholar would be able to tell my
and the
bias.
Chinese, they try to embrace it as two sides of the same coin. Like the Confucian side can take care of the ordering of society, and then
Yeah,
the
right.
Taoist side can take care of the individual's life.
Oh yeah, yeah, and even Buddhism. Right? It actually incorporates all three.
Right.
Almost. Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism.
Yeah. Then we use the analogy of the three-legged cauldron, and those three branches support Chinese society. But this leads me to my line of inquiry too. What I wanted to ask you directly about. So, with your researches into the tradition of Islam and the Muslims, I'm very interested in the jinn and paranormal experience. And my first curiosity is, you don't have to talk about them, but I'm just curious, have you had direct paranormal experiences that you could tangibly say this was something that was supernatural?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, awesome. And to follow that up, what is your thoughts and opinions on the jinn or genie and their relationship to what the Christians believe are demons? And I'd like to exclude as a like a parameter that this is not entirely a psychological thing, because my experience is that they are true, genuine spiritual forces that are outside of the human mind, and they're not just a psychological meandering as like the 19th century magicians would say, like Crowley, Israel Regardie, McGregor Mathers. They all tried to bring it into the line of it just being a mental thing, but from my experience, it's not that. It can be partially that as we experience it, but it seems to be genuine, tangible spiritual forces that dwell outside of the human realm. And so that's my question, essentially, to begin the conversation. But I know you're running out of time, so I don't think we can get very deep into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're essentially out of time on my channel. So if you're not seeing
Okay.
this anymore, please subscribe to Frank Monday. I'm sure I put it up before the 55-minute mark so that people could go and subscribe there.
Oh, wow. Thank you
so
for that, man.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
so my video cuts off at about this time, and right, but I'm not really concerned with that, and right, I mean, I would
No,
have.
I wasn't either. I thought we were
Yeah, I
behind
would
the
have.
scenes.
Yeah, I would have invited you up even if the show was over. So I'm not, so it really doesn't matter to me. I mean, but and that's why I dropped the link there. No, I wasn't expecting you to chat in the chat box there. But yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. But and I
Right,
don't.
because it's a little deeper than that. I wanted to feel your spirit and your natural reactions.
Yeah,
I find
especially
that's
not after like 12 hours.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah, but
our time frames never line up. That's what's really hard with me being in China and everyone else being in the Western world. Because I imagine you're in America, right?
yeah, yeah. But I'll tell
Okay.
you what I think about this question.
Okay.
In terms of the jinn, right? So there's many different types of creation, right? So the angels are made of light. You know what I mean? Man is made out of a um you know essentially clay, right? And the jinn are made out of the smokeless fire, right? So
Right.
yeah, so it's not a demon per se, right? It's just another type of life form. You know what I'm saying, right? Right. So there's other life forms that exist. There's another type of plane that exists, right? And that's the plane of the
Right.
jinn. They don't really correspond with us. We can't see the jinn world. Some humans can see jinns, right? Some
Hmm.
jinns are corrupted, right? So the thing is that jinns that are corrupted, they can go beyond, you know, like they're not necessarily limited by time and space the way we are, right? So a jinn, right, that is basically um, you know, an evil jinn, they could like do things like they could imitate your family members, right, in your dream and
Okay.
stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the thing is like if you see people in your dream, and sometimes people think it's the ancestor. Well, that ancestor magic is a lot of the ways that people get caught into demon worship, right? So there's a lot of things going on in terms of the jinn. So the jinn, right? Um, you know, they have a corruptible spirit. I mean, but they're not, but they don't have intelligence, right? So essentially, jinns possess
Hmm.
spiritual power and not intelligence, right? So this is a key feature of the jinn, right? Most jinn possess the intelligence of like a 12-year-old human, so to speak, right? But
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
so they're not very intellectually mature, right? But they, in terms of their reasoning, right? But they're spiritually advanced. You know what I mean?
Then
Beings, because they're not limited by physical space, right?
within the paradigm of hermetic sciences, would they be within the classification of, say, elemental spirits, or above that?
I mean, I think it's like electricity. Dare I say? I mean, right? I think smokeless fire is like electricity. Like there's an electrical world that surrounds us, right?
Right.
And there's beings inhabiting that world, right? There's living spirits that inhabit that world. I mean, so
Well, the thing is, with, like you said, there are people who can see Jen. So with the long term, and give me just a second, son of Lilith, and then you can
yeah,
respond. But with the long time practice of Tai Chi and Qigong, like the smokeless fire of like at least Qi energy, not the Wei Qi, but what we call like there's Yuan Qi, Wei Qi, and then like Li Qi. So these different distinctions of Qi energy in the Taoist system. They're very distinct. One is your
yeah,
original energy, one is your protective energy, and then one is like a combative energy. But when you practice for a long time, you can see a manifestation of smokeless fire. It's literally a plasma that emits from the body and from living things in different values.
yeah,
But
and see,
the
and
the
see, that's
the
one level of power, right?
yeah,
So
the jinn appear that way because I've been around a few Taoist priests over the time that I've been here, and they capture them in gourds, like the small fruit, and they'll prepare the gourd with magical sigils on it, and then they'll summon jinn with their magic, and then they'll put them in the gourd, and they use these for various purposes, and they keep them around their temples and stuff. And there are very few these days anymore, but there still are a few that practice this old type of like Aladdin's lamp genie magic. And so I was curious if they were if there was some relationship between demoniacal forces, which I don't typically deal with, even though I do Solomonic magic. And I was curious if I could bridge the gap somehow and make, of the Goetia and make similar type things of my own creation. And it's what I'm interested in researching.
Yeah, I gotta let Lilith come in here. But the thing
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Matt.
in terms of the twofold, see, we also have smokeless light, meaning we have the ethereal electrical body, right? But we also are made not of a fixed light the way the angels are made, right? But a light that can increase or decrease, right? So you see
Right.
that both in people. People have an energetic body, right? That's based on their electrochemical makeup, right? And then they also, and that is functioning or healthy in one way, right? And then they have another body that's based on like their overall light, and you could see like there's people that are surrounded by light, and there's other people that, their eyes look fucking darkened, right? They
Yeah,
look
they're
like the
they're
light's been
they're
fucking stolen from them. Yeah, they
yeah,
look
they're
like
enveloped in darkness and being
yeah, like
consumed by
oily
it.
and shit, yeah, and fucking yeah. It's like this is the thing, right?
Queen
So
Stefan.
yeah, so that's the thing is that that these things function in a human being in a different way than they do in an angel or a jinn, right? But you know, it's obvious that yeah, that man is a very unique creation, made in
Yeah.
God's image, so
And my main drive here is that there's a clear distinction, right? Because I don't just think it's a difference of relabeling things from the Western mind or the Eastern mind. I think that the way they identified these things and some of these things are clearly distinct from one another. I think that's what I'm groping for here.
yeah.
So, Lilith, welcome.
Yes, a few things. Crowley was kind of misunderstood. Number one,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
he uh, he didn't necessarily say that it was all in the mind. He said that the distinction between the two was a fine line, and so really it was a little bit of both. And I would agree with this. That these are propensities within the human consciousness that are unconscious already, and that these forces use those propensities in order to communicate with us. Okay, and whatever gods or goddesses, as the case may be, a lot of times, um, that the the victors, the conquerors, the religion of the time doesn't like becomes demons, becomes demonized. So that's that's basically the long and short of that. Um, with Dallas, I know that they hold to a very I want to say left hand path perspective, but I mean, there's legitimately uh, a teacher, Ben Bell Wen, who gets into this about the traditional Taoist and pre-Taoist I was talking about earlier, shamanic roots um, of their magical system and all that, with like the talismans and all of that, and basically, this idea that they are equal to the gods, and that's a very left hand path perspective where you're not really trying to become um, like the gods. You're actually realizing that you yourself are divine, um, and interacting with the natural world directly.
Right.
Um, and I actually have direct personal experience with uh, angels, quote unquote, and demons, quote unquote. Um, and I think that both can be just as dangerous, to be honest. Um, and tricky, and whatever the case may be. And there have been paranormal experiences I would be here forever getting into, uh, that have showed me that they most certainly are real, quote unquote. I'm using quotations because these are things that are hard to explain, for one, in a short period of time, and two, we have to redefine what real is, because they're not anthropomorphic deities, or life forms like that. They have a different kind of existence, than what we would normally accept as real, but are nevertheless real. And the symbols and all of that, is basically window dressing. Like I was explaining to someone before, like the symbols, the biography, the story, the mythology, none of that is necessarily real. Okay, it's just what they use in order to communicate with us because they're beyond our comprehension. So it's not what they are, it's just something they use in order to have a way of uh addressing us in a language that we'll understand.
Do you know this guy, Frank?
So it's not for them, it's
Who?
for us.
Twilight Son of Lilith.
I met him one time. I believe it was here on your show.
Oh,
Or-
fascinating. Yeah.
Lilith, where did we meet? Do you recall? I know that we crossed paths recently.
Uh, I know. I call I make jokes. I say I'm the most known unknown because I know people from all over the place, and I don't
Okay.
always remember. I don't
Yeah.
always remember, so forgive me.
Yeah, I
But
don't
yes,
recall either.
I do recall.
Yeah, because
I
you
used
guys
to
are the
meet.
only two people like I've met in a while that have openly said, "Oh, I practice magic." So I feel like you
Yeah,
two should have a good conversation. That's the main reason I brought it
yeah,
back up. But
yeah. Well, normally I really don't get into all of that, but since the very first time that we started talking, and I was talking to Anna, and she used to be on my streams, and I used to get pretty deep into all that. Um, I was talking about it. I didn't really think much about it, and yeah, it was already kind of in the air.
Okay. Well, yeah,
And then after that, but I usually don't actually.
it,
But
it's the only thing that concerns me. Like from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to sleep, and while I sleep, even it's just magic for me now. Of
it's
course,
the
Tao.
magician's curse. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, yeah, I feel you.
from the time I was 12 till 45, it was just Dao. I
Oh.
studied Dao and did Kung Fu every single day, Qigong every single day, and Taoist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once I got turned on to Taoist magic and I started restudying my
It's
Hebrew
brilliant.
roots, like there's many correspondence between the Tao and the ancient Hebrew arts that I don't think a lot of people have detected yet, and it's something that I'm trying to synthesize in my own work.
hmm Yeah. I mean,
oh
there's
yeah,
there's there's
yeah.
a lot of
There's a Dow in everything. Like I said like I said earlier in the show that you could take a random philosopher and say Tao of that guy. Like
right.
because all their ideas are essentially Taoist and they don't even know it. It's like, it's kind of weird, but yeah.
Right. And that's why essentially Tao is the most serviceable, yet the least dominant. Like we were saying a moment ago on Machine Lies, that it can't serve as a universal system
Yes,
for all because it has no like usurpation of personal authority.
definitely. Yeah, I definitely feel that. You know,
Like the essential element to it is wei wu wei, or to do non doing. So it means that by way of that, you never interfere in anything. And Lao Tzu's great quote at the beginning of the Tao Te Ching is Yen zhi bu zhi and zhi zhi bu yen, or he who knows does not speak, and he who speaks is just showing his ignorance, right? Or
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you should
so
go back and hear me and Lilith go over that because we did a fantastic job going over that thing. Yeah.
okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only able to catch a certain amount because I work like 60 hours a week at an academy here in Beijing.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, but now I'm
Yeah,
on vacation, so I'm looking forward to an entire month of winter break for the Chinese New Year.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, you could read it about 500 times and still get something new out of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're
For
doing
sure.
our second reading now. Second
Who's
translation. So yeah.
whose translation are you using, or transliteration?
Well, we're now doing Stephen Mitchell, going with the most accessible ones. First I did the Penguin, DC Lau one, and now I'm doing Stephen Mitchell, and then I'll probably
Okay.
do Giafu Feng. And
Have you
yeah.
looked at Thomas Cleary's or Master Ni Hua Qing's?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
I'll
got to
send you.
send me some. Yeah.
I'll send you both of those names. The Nihua Ting one, like if you can find the like 1986 edition, it's got real flavor. But over the years, because his teaching is so big in Los Angeles that he has toned everything down and kind of his sons have taken over where he left off and they've kind of woke everything up a little bit. But like and he calls them transliterations because he was a Chinese guy from Fujian that moved to the U.S. in the late 60s and taught Dao. But Thomas Cleary, I'm sure you're familiar with. He's Shambhala, like Harvard type stuff, and it's really good.
Well, transliteration is more honest, to be honest, because that's really what it is. Because a
Right.
translation would be a word for word, you know. That's what a translation is. An actual translation is word for word, exactly what it says, as closely as can be, and that's very rarely what it is. So, yeah, that's a lot more honest.
Yeah, and according to the researches I've done here at Tsinghua University in Beijing, most of the actual original translation work was done by Germans, like in the 17th
Yeah,
and 1700s or something. So,
I mean, hell, even Aleister Crowley had a transliteration of the Tao. People don't realize that. He considered it the most sublime of ancient texts.
Yeah, that's the one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read the Crowley one and then the Seraphim Rose one just to piss everyone off, because it'll be,
okay.
Oh, that's
you know,
brilliant.
yeah,
You,
yeah,
you
the
know
Crowley one
Crowley's
and then the Christian one. Yep.
Crowley's time in China, he said that he could never get apprenticed to a Taoist master.
Well, because I mean, he was. I try to explain to people that he was kind of like uh, Eminem or like Marilyn Manson at the time. You know, everyone was making all these rumors about him, and he's just like, "Yep, that's me."
Right. Yeah, he was a
And a lot of
pioneer.
people don't understand that. Like
He was a decadent, he just I'm the beast. There it is
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there's Sufis who say, that you should spread bad rumors about yourself in the community, and
yes.
so that you could actually do things without motive. I mean,
Oh, that
but
Yeah.
yeah,
makes sense. That makes
Well, this
sense.
is this is kind of it. And if you actually read his works and not what other people say about him, it becomes very clear what he was really about. And what happened was he was revealing things that weren't supposed to be revealed, and so that's why people hated him. Between that and the fact
Right.
that, like, he was okay, for instance, he was writing in his book Magic and other ones, particularly Magic, these secrets of like sex magic and all that. And he had like the leader of the OTO show up at his door. Like, why are you writing the secrets of this and that degree and da da da? He's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What degree? Because he wasn't. And so they immediately initiated him because he wasn't allowed to, they're just like, who are you to be writing all these secrets? And he's like, I don't, I'm not part of your damn order. Like, what, whatever. And he has another quote, and he says, many have accused me of practicing black magic. He said, nothing could be, he says, I can't, what is it? Uh, Nothing could be farther from the truth, or something along those lines. He says, I cannot believe that there are people so debased as to practice such a thing. Uh, you know, and they would be so lost that they,
They
they,
they
they,
they
they
did they did though. Don't let him lie to you. He was villainous to an extreme sometimes, and he would think nothing of taking an iron plate, putting gunpowder on it, and making a sigil that would absolutely destroy someone. I mean, he was a genuine magician. So um, he was definitely the beast incarnate. But I see what you're saying. I mean, people misconstrue a lot of what he's got going on. Like in today, the common parlance is people will wear a shirt or something that says "Do what thou will," right? And it's not what he said. He said "Do what thou wilt," right? And it's as most
most
as both of you
what I'm
probably know.
saying is most
Yeah.
of the debauchery was to himself in his later years because he became addicted to drugs and all that type of stuff. You know, but people
Right.
think he was actually like sacrificing people and shit. Is what I'm saying.
Well,
Which is
the sex magic is definite. I mean, it rises the
no, that's
vibration
true.
quite a bit.
Yes,
Right.
That was
orgiastic, raising the
yes,
cone of energy and then
yes,
directing it at a purpose. They were definitely up
yes.
to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he wasn't sacrificing people and shit. Like that was that was people saying shit about him, and then that was him, basically saying, that's me, you know.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Not anybody that didn't need to be sacrificed anyway. Right.
well, I mean, right. Well, I don't know about all that, but I mean, he,
Well,
it's
and
just, I mean,
here's the
go
thing
ahead.
too. And the reason I approached to Machine Lies is because like the distinction between like the jinn and the lesser elemental creatures, and then the upward movement of beings above and within us. And I know you, Lilith, agree as well. Like as within, so without. Right? We are
Yes,
communicating with both of these directions simultaneously. But my main purpose in concerning the jinn was that when I see the Taoists containing such like that type of energy within a vessel and then using it towards a purpose, I'm wondering if the jinn, like you said, only has a maybe an approximation of a 12-year-old mentality, then it doesn't seem like it in any way would be diabolical to utilize it to this purpose. And people who
Well,
don't
no, it
understand,
definitely no, it definitely can be diabolical. Yeah, it definitely can be diabolical. Yeah, because these are volatile sort of living beings. So the thing is that there's nothing within our human spirit. See, we're given a light that is not fixed like the angels, and and we can go beyond the jinn, right? So the fact is that we don't need either angelic forces or the forces of the jinn in order to manifest um our true nature, right? Because our nature contains both, as I've said, right? So I think that, in my opinion, I don't think that angels are above us and jinn are below us, but rather that these are just different types of beings. You know what I mean?
agreed.
That makes sense.
I agree with that. As a magician, I agree with that. And everything that I've worked with, including demons and what are supposedly jinn, I work with Asmodeus. He is he's supposedly a demon. He's the one who helped build Solomon's temple, by the way, and also supposedly a jinn king. That's his sigil right there. Now, I don't know if he really is that, okay, but he definitely doesn't seem anywhere near a child.
It's
Um,
weird. Right
so
when you said
so
that,
I
my
don't.
screen. Yeah, right when you said that, my screen went black. By the way, so it is what it
Okay,
is.
so I
But
don't
yeah,
know. The story is
nice.
that he's the one who actually built. He's the one who actually built Solomon's temple. So Solomon didn't build a temple. Solomon, and I believe this is in Islamic lore, if I'm not mistaken.
wait, say the name of
Um,
that guy again.
Asmodeus.
That's what it is. That's funny, man. Yeah, because my
Asmodeus.
screen literally, I think I like set off like a Mossad
He
alarm
comes
or
from
something.
a
It's like, it
you'll
was
love
weird.
this because he comes from an older spirit that was Persian, originally. And from what I understand, this is where the jinn actually come from too, originally. Because it goes back to pagan Arabian polytheism. It goes further back than Islam. Um,
Right, right. But you're a mythicist, so it's a different
well,
game there.
no, I'm not a mythicist in totality. I just see it as
Let's
one
not get
piece of.
into this because
No, no,
I,
no.
yeah.
Well, no, because I'm telling you that I believe they exist as beings. So no, I'm not fully a mythicist. I just believe that that's one level of interpretation with what became religion. Because I
Yeah.
believe
Uh-oh. Think you accidentally muted yourself there, brother.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So, and my main
of the
point too, like,
archetypes, I think the archetypal world, as far as I know, I,
mm,
the, and I totally get what Lilith is saying. It's not
yes, the
exactly
archetypes, but
myth,
see,
but
here's the thing.
yeah,
Here's the thing. People think that because it's an archetype, it doesn't have an existence. This is not true. this is the part that a lot of people can't wrap their heads around.
But yeah,
They
hold
think,
on a
oh, it's
second.
the sun, or it's the this, or it's the that. Okay, well, guess what? The archetypes means that it's existed in the humanity from the day one.
Yeah,
Okay.
simmer down. Yeah, simmer down for a second, my friend. Frank, were you about to butt in with something?
No, I just wanted to guide it a little bit in the direction. Someone in the channel asked on my restream if we could give them like a fundamental ground level understanding of Taoism. So,
Yeah,
Machine Lies, could you
Sal,
tackle
are
that
you?
for a moment?
Yeah, Sal, are you still there? I could definitely do that, Sal. The thing is, in terms of Taoism, you know, in the beginning, I kind of compare it to Confucianism so that people can understand
Yeah.
the total distinction there. But I guess one of the main differences would be this idea. Yeah, the top two ideas I would point you to is the idea of going beyond words, right? So in Confucianism, you want exact words and definitions for things, right? So in Confucianism, he says words need to have meaning for society to run in order. Now, Taoism says that once you begin to name things, it's the beginning of confusion, right? So, this idea of drawing distinction between things, I guess Taoism thinks that drawing distinction between things makes you lose sight of a greater mystery of things, or a whole way of looking at things, another epistemological reference point that will totally be outside of your view if you just focus on names. Then in terms of ethics, uh, uh, you could say that Taoism says that goodness is not context dependent within the division of labor of a society. Taoism says that those who are truly good are not aware of their own goodness, right, and are therefore truly good. So Taoism does not want to develop societal modes the way Confucianism does. It doesn't say goodness is context dependent. It actually says goodness has its own inherent value, right? So this understanding of inherent goodness, and where is this inherent goodness found? It's found within natural simplicity, the simplicity of nature, right? Not within technical improvement, right? Or within applying a system of laws. Even a king doesn't want to apply standards on his own people, right? The best way a king can rule, right, is by making people think they did it themselves, right? So by
Yeah.
hoodwinking the people, right? So all of these are elements within Taoism, that the ruler is an unseen force, essentially. And in Confucianism, that's totally untenable because kings, ministers, and all the relations of filial piety, they all have to be in harmony with each other. So,
Right, and
I guess I would
they
look
have to
at,
be brought
yeah,
forward as representatives.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
When
there's
you
some,
when you
yeah, there's
when
some
you have
cues
too
there. Yeah.
many abstractions, you're nullifying what is already complete. You're putting God in a box. You're
Yeah.
you're restricting the infinite. That's
Yeah.
basically what it's saying. And
And and
so,
and
go
Machine
ahead.
Lies, could you go on a little bit more because you're giving an eloquent, succinct definition that's really
Oh yeah.
valuable.
And I
Um,
just want to say one thing about my
Go ahead.
personal experience with the daemons and the jinn and all that, and why they may say why I think could be very well a good reason why they say that they're more like children and all that. I don't think it has to do with intellect. I think what it has to do with is they are primal and unbound and very instinctual. So they're like wild animals. They don't operate so much as like higher. I mean, they definitely have the capacity,
That
they're clever,
that makes
but
good
they
sense.
they they operate from a very primal, unbound nature, and if you work with them, you will too.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is
and
part of the task of the magician is to overcome them and not let them overcome you. And this is the part that is very dangerous for most practitioners, that they don't know what the fuck they're getting into, and why most people have horror stories and they're just like, oh, the demons are trying to ruin my life, because they don't understand. It's like, no, it's not that the demon is evil, it's that you're a retard because you're trying to summon a storm into your being, and it's tearing you apart because you're not ready for it.
Well, that leads us into the next. That leads us into the next distinction that I would like you to try to handle, Machine Lies, if you have time. Which is now that we've established this base, which is clear and concise. What would be your explanation of how the Taoists deal with these primal energies and how we are to cultivate them?
Oh yeah, through non-mediated action. I think that would be the best place. You know what I mean? To start. All right. So I think that tapping directly into the energies, right? Not through rituals or vessels or forms, right? So there's a sort of metaphysical element within Taoism, and that comes about too. In terms of chapter 42, that's a main place you could look at sort of Taoist creationism, if there is such a thing, right? But it talks about both the manifest energies and the unmanifest energies, right? So the
Yeah.
fact is, yeah. So the fact is that it's much better to use the unmanifest energies than the manifest energies, right? And that's what it's saying, because you tap into the source there, right? So
Do you think that would
yeah.
do you think that would directly correspond with the Greek idea of the preformed state?
Um,
I mean,
I
when
mean,
Aristophanes and Anaxagoras, and I believe even Socrates touched on it, that everything exists, like a chair, for example, exists in a preformed state, and it's only when we bring it into manifestation. And in the Chinese Tao, we call this the pre-heaven state of things, the
yeah.
unmanifest energies. If
I
you
mean,
could continue that line of
I'd
inquiry.
stay away from that idea. I think of it more as the prologue of John than Plato, right? Because the prologue of John is a line against Neoplatonism, and most people don't really realize it, right? Because in Neoplatonism, right, there's a higher realm, right? But what you know the prologue of John is saying is the higher realm and the lower realm are basically one thing. Right? You know what I mean? Because they're both like with God, right? So it's saying that it says that God creates through the logos, but the logos was God, right? So I think that is more interesting, that the same thing that's used for creation, it's not different, because in terms of Plato, right, there's ontological transcendence, right? But there is no ontological transcendence in terms of the Tao, because everything is Tao, right? So there's just no sense in which there's dualism there, right? So that's why I said earlier, where I compared Taoism to Plato and Buddhism, right? And it doesn't it incorporates both, because it says that being and non-being, right? So the main thing in Plato's philosophy is being, right? Being can never match non-being, and the main thing in the Buddhist philosophy is non-being. Non-being can never match up to the energy of being, and Taoism says these are two sides of the same coin.
There you
I mean,
go.
right?
There you go.
You know what I mean? So you
Good
know what I
fucking
mean?
Yes, they
magic.
are.
Yeah, so Sal, feel free to go to the Machine Lies channel. Earlier in this episode, I almost explained everything I've said now. So, I got it on tap. I mean, this is, it's
Yeah,
like a
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
soft serve,
we slayed that shit
absolutely,
earlier.
and that's
soft
why I
serve
seek.
ice cream machine. I mean,
That,
it is what it is.
yeah, that's why I seek you out, and that's why I came with to you with these questions.
Yeah, blessings. Yeah. Yeah. And
Then
there's
the
lots of
next,
people. Yeah, for sure. Go
and
ahead.
then yeah, the next step would be so. We've covered some of the recent foundation of it, and we're dwelling in it right now. And my main trajectory, if we consider time and the dimensions, then like many people are wondering, everybody's wondering, how do we penetrate the mystery? And what would you say to that? Like just as your natural response.
Well, if we're going with the Tao, I mean, ever desireless, one can see the mystery, right? Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations, right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, how can we perceive the mystery? I mean, see things without division, free our minds of concepts and knowledge. You know what I mean? Not try to gain knowledge. You know what I mean? But you know, by seeing the relation between things, right? So I think the fact is that you know, I think what y- essentially what we're involved in is a power leak, right? With technology and a lot of our interactions. So yeah,
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
yeah. So
Lao
I
Tzu,
think yeah,
Lao Tzu told us, close the doors, shutter the windows, and
exactly.
don't
Yeah,
don't leak the energy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
about gaining more knowledge. It's about eliminating falsehood so you can see what's real.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So in the path of knowledge, one gains, by through incremental gain, but in the path of the Tao, one gains by relinquishing. So I think, and that's why I think it's hard for people to see. I think the use of technology is clouding our mental faculties. Obviously, the
Yeah, and
fact is
that's
that
the thing
Million
yeah,
too.
percent. Million
yeah,
percent.
Remember, Lao Tzu counsels us. He says it's easy to see, but people are turning their backs on it, and I'm afraid they'll turn their backs on it till the end of their life.
yeah. And I say, that we're facing a foggy somatic detachment through the externalization of ego and the mediation of our ego through the tools we use. All right.
This
So,
is this is the
yeah,
distinction I make, what I call between the mystery, which is the true mystery, which is the mystery of nature, because there is no difference between the natural and the supernatural when you really understand it. Okay, which is the true mystery, the mysteries of nature herself. And then you have the mysterium, which is this disembodied worlds, afterlives, and all these other things that are unfalsifiable and exist in some abstract space that really has no existence. And so that's really, and then you could take that into a technology, where it's like this transhumanist, multiverse or whatever the hell. It's the same thing. It's just bringing it into the physical, like our buddy Ray was talking about. It, you know,
Yeah, and just to address, I know you're limited for time, and that you guys maybe headed off into the abodes of dreamland, but the idea of confining and concealing and conserving these energies in part is, of course, what we refer to as seminal retention, but it's also the constant reaching out. Like, we're utilizing Solomon's dark mirror right now at
Mhm.
at a level that they, in fact, I believed, utilized it as well, right? They would set up the temple, set the obsidian mirror in front of them, and they had this technology without any effort. We're on even somehow a digressed level, a degenerate level, as to what our ancestors were able to achieve. But my main point is that when we focus these energies and conserve these energies, we do give birth to new spirits. Yeah, voluminous columns of smoke. Yeah, and we bring forth these ideas like machine lies. You have a reservoir of powerful wisdom that did not happen in one lifetime. This is something that has been brought about through a shamanistic path of priesthood and cultivation over many lifetimes. And I recognize that immediately. That's why I always defer to you in the nature of such things and seek your counsel, right? So, again, it's always about, from our limited perspective, it's always about the path forward. And yeah, so what a wonderful thing. And I'm glad that you were able to take an extra, half an hour or an hour out of your life and address some of these queries that I had. Thank you so much for that, man. Blessings.
yeah. No worries. Come back anytime. You know what I mean? Definitely. I'm here for you. Especially Wednesday night and Saturday night. We do these long form streams. in which we discuss Daoism, technology. We take a critical look at technology. Obviously, it's the number one thing that most people take for granted. So, in terms of critical thinking, it's a real, shit starter. So that's why I kind of themed the show in that direction, right? Because I want people to question, the mode that they're engaging in the first place. You know what I mean? Because I think thinking about thinking, I think that's the most evil thing. I think that is the loop, the mega loop, of Aristotle. I'm trying to keep people away from that. I think this technology is, that's what it is: efficiency for the sake of efficiency, thinking for
Yeah.
the sake of thinking. You know what I mean? And yeah,
Right. And you know that the reason China lagged so far behind for so many, like hundreds of years, is because they deliberately forestalled it. They had rockets, they had magic mirrors, they had Mercury, right? They had all of these types of gadgets and tools. And like when someone like an intelligent genius would bring forth a new technology, the emperor would put him up on the cutting block and chop off his head and say, "No, we need not advance. We need cultivate." And so yeah, it's a real thing that
Right.
they tried to forestall for a long time, but here it is now, right? Westerners embraced it and said, "Fuck, time to move forward."
India was the same for a long time, as well as Japan. Yeah, yeah. And then they were forced to. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah,
Well, gentlemen, if I can keep you for a bit longer, I have plenty of I I personally have plenty of time. I'm off from work. I'm freed from the machine for the next 4 weeks, and I'm just kind of
so
now getting into it. So yeah, good magic, man. A lot of fun.
you're staying in China.
Yes, I live in Beijing. I've been here
Nice.
since like 2000, 2001, and so quite a bit of time.
Okay. Right on.
And I came here with a very specific purpose, a very genuine, small purpose. Just that when I was a young man, I practiced a lot of kung fu, and
Hmm.
my older brother, was a big guy, like 6'2", 200 pounds, a bit of a badass, and he always saw me getting my ass kicked growing up in L.A. A lot of gangsters there and shit, and
Right. Right.
he forced me to do two things. One was to go surfing with him like every day, which I hated because
Why?
the
I
ocean
love.
destroyed me. I'm like a little dude. I'm 5'9", 100. I was like 100 back then. I was just a little bitty kid, But
Right.
and he was a big dude. He's a year and a half older than me, but he grew up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's just giant. And so he would take me out surfing every day, and I didn't like it. I'd get thrown over over the falls and get tossed around in the washing machine.
It's fun
And
though.
yeah, it took me about 10 years to grow to like it. And even now, I don't really like it, but I can surf. So yeah, but and then the other thing was kung fu. Like we went to karate classes
Yeah.
first, then we did taekwondo, then we did like some other Japanese arts, aikido, and so on and so
Keto.
forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I took the keto and Tai Chi when I was younger.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did kempo as well for a couple of years, and then when we found Chinese schools like internal
Yeah.
arts,
Big
whole
difference.
fucking
Knee
different.
gone.
Yeah,
Knee gone.
totally
Yeah.
fucking different.
You
Like our
mentioned.
Shifu was a fun guy, and he'd play with us and shit, and like he laughed a lot, and it was like, wow, this isn't serious at all. And like,
No.
he would be pushing you into the splits and laughing at you and like smack you on the back of the head or something. And we had full contact class, like where we would actually go in and fight. And Shifu would like the top 10 dudes would go in there with him, and he would kick everybody's ass. So
Of
don't
course.
fucking tell me Chinese kung fu doesn't work. You're talking
Hmm.
like, 19, 20-year olds are there at the top of their game trying to attack him. And he's like
Yeah.
50, and
Yeah.
he would smack everybody down. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was good fun. A lot of
It's
good
not
guys
funny.
came out of that school. Yeah, so it drove my passion, but mostly I would just sit in the background. I'd sit in the library. I don't want to go in there and get my fucking ass kicked. I'd sit in the library and read all the books on Daoism because he had a
Right.
library with books
Yeah.
full of Taoist magic and all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. You're into the crazy
Mantak
shit like me. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wei
Inner
Wuti.
cultivation, tantra. Yeah. Yeah. I got deep into that. I practice it now. Tantra, Indian as well as Tao. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
Sounds like you're
No
crazy like
worries.
me, man. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, do tell. Push some of that forward. Like, what was your
oh,
interest? How did you
oh
get fucking
man, I've been
reeled in the
everywhere, man. I've
path?
been in the light. I've been in the dark. Really, they're the same thing when you understand it. When you understand what it's all about. Um, Yeah, I got into Gnostic Christianity because I was raised evangelical. But I was always interested in other traditions, even when I was so called Christian. I was never really Christian in the traditional sense. I was Gnostic before I knew what the hell that word meant. In the sense that I've always seen Jesus as like a liberator of humanity from their own, ignorances. I've always seen him more as like a shaman, a healer. Uh, I mean, I think a case can be made that a lot of what he taught is more in line with Eastern teachings, especially the more the more heretical texts. But
What?
even
Yeah, yeah.
even in the
And
New Testament,
the
go ahead.
Chinese would the Chinese they have a story they postulate in Tao that it was Chinamen that went. They were the three magi that went and grabbed him and took him from 12 to 30 to teach him qigong. So yeah, there's something to
Yes,
that.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, man, and I've mentioned this to people before. Is this isn't the church that says that he was traveling other places? These are indigenous cultures. They say he was in India. They say he was in Tibet. They say he was in Egypt. And they have stories about this. People just discount them, and it's like, well, why are they saying it? It's kind of strange. It's like, why would they just make this shit up? Like, and these are just the lay people. This isn't the priests that are saying this. And so I personally think the story of the birth, the death, the resurrection, all that is astrotheology and kabbalistic ciphers and all this other stuff, which I know you know what I mean. uh and that was to occlude what actually occurred. And the reason I say this is because all the oldest texts, okay, uh don't have him with a biography as a historical person. These are the newer quote unquote texts, okay, and some of the ones that they call heretical are just him teaching, period, like a Zen master or something, like a Gospel of Thomas or whatever. And there's many others, but again, we'll be here forever. uh and it's it's quite obvious that if you read through it, you know uh that he was trying to show people their own divinity, and telling people not to rely on authorities. Like, I mean, it's quite clear, um to me at least. And I mean, if you really study the early histories of Christianity, before it was Christianity, before it was a state religion, before someone turned it into a religion, like someone was saying earlier, 100 years later they decided to turn it into a religion. Well, if someone writes a biography about someone 100 years after they died, you know, in modern times, are you going to believe they, like, the oldest texts they have are from Paul, and Paul never knew Jesus. So what does that mean?
Well, yeah, and
Like,
that's the thing. That's the thing we
they
get
never met
into
him.
too. Yeah, that's the thing we get into too.
True, too.
And you're right.
Never
You're
met
right
him.
in you're right in saying that. This is all hearsay.
It
A lot
is
of
a
it.
lot of it, but then they say the other stuff is hearsay when it's older. So how does that work?
Well,
Yeah,
that's where we have to grok it. We have to have intuition. We have to balance logic and reason with
yes,
intuition and
intuition
insight.
and insight. Yes, and so to me, it honestly becomes irrelevant. It's a secondary issue. I do think someone did exist, okay, but the story of his historicity is of secondary importance. What's important to me is the message, not the messenger. And honestly, I think if he was here, he would agree. Because he never once asked for worship. Okay, he never once said go and create a church in my name and all this. Never. He says that they like to be praised. You know, they like to praise my father's name aloud and be noticed. He says don't do that. They're hypocrites. They don't understand me. They don't. You know, they don't actually follow me. They just claim to. You know, but they really don't. They really don't understand anything. They're children. I give them milk because they can't bear the meat. You know, and you like if you actually look at when he's speaking, okay, when he's actually
Right,
speaking,
right, right. Milk and honey for babes, and
yeah,
meat and strong drink for men.
right, yeah, and he's trying to like teach them things, and they're asking him all these questions, and he's like, I'm trying to give you simple, you know, concise answers about things that are that have to do with the material world, and you can't understand that, and you're asking me about spiritual things. He's
I
like, you're
mean,
not ready.
I mean, who wrote the book of Hebrews?
Well, exactly.
It's a good
And the thing
question,
is,
really.
this, like the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that wasn't until after the fact. Those texts never had names assigned to them until after.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
So there's
those aren't even Hebrew names.
no, they're
Machine
not.
Lies. Bring it forward. What have you got?
well, just this idea of the book of Hebrews, I mean, this idea about milk, for infants and solid food for adults. It's talking about the esoteric and the exoteric quite plainly, and then it's talking about the
Yes,
um,
Oh God,
the
that's so nice.
yeah, the law of Melchizedek, and then the law of you know, Moses. So it's very interesting.
right.
It's making the distinctions of flesh and spirit right there between those two
Yes,
ways of thinking. So it's
said it.
fascinating book. Yeah, and I mean, I guess nobody really knows who wrote it. Some say it's Paul, and some, I mean,
Well,
obviously,
again,
who knows?
if Paul wrote it, Paul never knew Jesus. Okay, so what Paul saw was the Christos, which is something that's existed since the beginning of time, because it's a spirit. Okay, and if that's true, then that just further cements what I'm saying. Okay, that this is
And
a Gnostic concept.
before we go forward too much, I would like to say that when true things of the spirit grok with individuals on a mass scale, and like these things come from the spirit, and they are written from the standpoint of spirit, unless like you've done the work, I don't like. I think it's very difficult to challenge those things at a superficial level. Like that's again
Yeah,
why I defer to those who are my seniors in these things, like the machine lies, and maybe yourself, Lilith. I don't know enough. Like I've listened to him for quite a long time, but you're very new to me. But having said that, I would say that I have penetrated into certain mysteries through my magic, through my cultivation, through my qigong, and there are certain things that occurred to me when I was much younger that prove to be true now and
yes,
have shown great relevance. And I know that men do speak to God and stand
sure.
within the celestial temple.
Yes, yes, no, no, I absolutely agree, and this is why I make the case that there is truth to this, and that man has spoken to God, quote unquote, in all different traditions at all different times, and they've all had a piece of the puzzle, and they basically have all, are all arguing over who has the bigger piece, or who has the clearer piece, or who have, and the reality is that the divine doesn't need, again, we're back to the Tao, to where it's like it's relevant because
Yeah, that's well said. That it
it's
is all
ultimately putting it in a
very
box,
various aspects of the puzzle. You're right about that.
right? Right. It's all ultimately of the divine, and the divine is all around you and inside you and all around you, but you can't see it, and that's what Jesus said. You know, and he said that Moses saw through a veil. He said, but soon we'll see face to face. And he says at pineal. Well, what is pineal? Hello, the pineal gland. It's not talking about a place. And he says that he only speaks in parables. And if he speak, there's never a time that he won't speak in a parable. Well, look up the word parable. It doesn't mean literal. It means the opposite. So it just blows my mind that people don't see this because it's so obvious to me. You know, all these, there's all these parables and all these esoteric, teachings. Everyone's like, it's literal. No, it never
No,
was
yeah, yeah.
literal.
You're right. They're alchemical formulas, and I think that that's more
Yes,
important. I think that's more important than anything else. Is that it's the method, not the madness, right? It's not the
right.
particular. It's not the particular things, but it's the process that we go through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, journey of a a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. I mean, from Lao Tzu, for sure. But,
Yes.
be in this world as a stranger. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's why he says, "Be in the world and not of it."
that's
Meaning,
right.
don't be conditioned by its rules and its laws and its mode of being. To be separate. That's what it originally meant to be a Christian, to be ye separate of this world, to not be, you know, uh,
Just real
weighed
quick,
down.
just real quick to give you the original flavor of the Chinese. It's 千里之心，是以之虚. We were just talking about this at a meetup with all of the foreign language cats at my academy. It's 千里之心，是以足下. Or like you just said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Yeah, so nice, so nice. How synchronistic is that, right? And that's why I studied the fucking language so that I could see it in its original form. That's why I came here. That's why I've been here nearly 30 years now, just to fucking grok that, to grasp it, to see the pictographs and understand them in their complete originality because it's so beautiful, such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, have you looked at Ezra Pound? He was a translator of Chinese. And a fantastic poet. But yeah,
I have not, but no, yeah, put the name in the thing and
yeah, he
I'll,
talks about the ABC. He's got a book called The ABC of Reading, where he talks about Chinese language. And it's interesting. And he describes the characters, and he says that that in the characters, that he says that red is described as, you know, being of red things. So it describes a red bird, or a cherry or something like that. And right, so it describes actual red objects. So it says it makes reference to the world when it describes objects instead of defining things on their own terms. So this idea that red is a wavelength on the color spectrum, right, right. So essentially, Ezra Pound says that is a distortion of what red is, right? But Chinese actually understand red because red is understood in relation to other red things, right? Right. So he says,
and and the two of
yeah,
us just happen to be wearing red.
yeah. So it's interesting. He's kind of taking this Taoist principle of defining things through their relation instead of in the Platonic sense separating and isolating the thing, and trying to define it on its own terms. He's that's it's false method.
True enough, and the other thing too is like the Golden Dawn brought forth the idea of these flashing colors. So when we do contemplate red within this plane of existence from an ocular focus, then it appears to us as a different color. I won't say it out loud, but it's reverse color. And so when I got into the initiation of Hermetics and started to contemplate all of the things around me in their reverse forms and to meditate on them deeply, just like walking throughout the world and seeing things like a sign, because they're very fucking strategic in this. And most
Yes.
people do not know this, but all the things around you, just like the movie where they have obey what they live, there's a reverse inverse message on all of these things. And when you take a moment, like that's why I admire you so much, the Machine Lies, because you always take the moment to reflect and contemplate and withdraw, which so many people do not do. Like I took a
Yeah.
year of vegetarianism just to get away from meat. I took a year long of silence just to contemplate truth. I took a year long off of sex, right? And this was all at the height, like 17, 18, 19, of the great passions, just to, dial them back a level, right? Because they're so fucking intense. But when you do that, you start to truly see, right? It's like whoever that motherfucker was, the wrestler, puts the glasses on you, and you can see that they live. They genuinely do. Like the distorted images around us are so apparent at that point. And as you say, so many people walk by in zombie land just ignoring it.
Yeah, and that's another thing in the Tao that I find particularly truthful is that opposition. You know, that each thing that opposes something else is part of the thing that it opposes. Right. So
Yes.
that is a different idea than either synthesis or mediation. You know, in terms of the Hegelian or the Hermetic game, which is that we're trying to synthesize truth or mediate truth, but in the Tao thing, it's more about the coincidentia positorum, which is that every every um say you have a fact, that fact presupposes its own opposite, right? So every single idea contains its own opposition. That's much more.
Yeah.
It's not controlled opposition. It's opposition from within. That is the critical form, right?
Yeah. That reminds me of when I was reading, when everyone was doing prayers. That reminds me of when I was reading from my grimoire about Kali Lilith. And it says it was beyond and before light split into light and darkness. When they were contained within each other, and the void and the infinite space of potential were one. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's uh, not to go into a diatribe, but yeah, it because that's really what it is, and that's what the yin yang is too. It's not something that is necessarily in opposition. They exist within each other. It's a complementary. It's only our perception that sees them as in opposition. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the upshot, I think. In fact, that one thing that many people overlook when they study the Tao Te Ching is that we have the Tao Te Ching. So we have the Tao, the way, the watercourse way, the low ground, right? But then we have the De. So the De of a rattlesnake is to fucking bite you with a venomous injection. The De of Mary Jane is to elevate you to a new level. The do of each individual, the virtue, the second part is of that is virtue, is that you must embrace the virtue with which you are endowed. Like you look at the Machine Lies and you could see the fucking virtue just emanating from him. That's a true, yeah, it's a true path of the watercourse way that the mud has settled, right? And the virtue starts to rise. And that's what each individual needs to embrace. That there isn't some arbitrary fascination with all this showy shit. You're going to fucking, well, I'm going to come off, jerking off my cock and shooting in this direction or that direction. No, you embrace your virtue and live to your true self. And that's what Crowley was saying, right?
Yes.
Aleister Crowley, right? Say his name like he meant it to be said. That's how he said his name should be said. I am Aleister Crowley, just like holy. I am a living embodiment of virtue, which is the beast. And he bared his fangs and he bit into the world. And he brought on the new Aeon, right? The Aeon of Horus.
Yeah. Yeah. And when like you were saying, people wear the shirt "Do what thou wilt," and they think it means do what you want. Nothing could be farther from the truth. it do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.
Yeah, maybe it's more like do what you actually have the power to do, or else it'll like fuck you up. Like
Well,
it's kind of like that,
he
right?
means well, do what
Like
thou when he
yeah,
says
like
do
if you're
what
gonna do something, make sure you mean it. Don't be half into that shit because
yeah,
it'll fuck you up. I mean, right? It'll fuck you
yes.
over.
But when he says do what you want, he doesn't mean like transitory
Yeah,
desire.
yeah,
He
because in
means
order to do what thou wilt, you have to unify your will. You know, so
mhm,
that's the thing is that most people
yes.
can't get to that first step. I mean,
So you have a single pointed will. So it's like your focus and your intention is like a laser pointer.
and they're gonna get me. They're gonna be like, "You follow Islam and Aleister Crowley." No, I can
Yep.
just explain it better than the followers of Aleister Crowley. That's all
There
that
you
Yep.
fucking
go.
matters.
There you
You
go.
fucking,
There. Yeah.
so don't get it
That's
twisted, bro.
right. And like you said, son of Lilith, it's the top of the fucking triangle, exactly where your sigil is pointing. That's the true
Yeah.
will.
That's exactly what that is. Yeah, well, your true will is your dharma, to put it in Eastern terminology. So it's not your will at the moment, your will that you feel like doing right now. It's your sole purpose for why the fuck you're incarnated on this planet right now. So your will for what you want to do uh in your transitory existence could very well be very different than what your sole purpose is. So what Crowley is saying is what do what thou wilt is the presupposes the greatest the greatest freedom and apotheosis, but also the strictest possible bond. That's part of the quote as well that people leave out. And so what he means by that is yes, it gives you emancipation, it gives you complete freedom, but it's also a bond because you're to do only that and nothing else. So there's something that you are supposed to do that is
Oh,
authentically you,
good
and you're
God,
not
man!
supposed to
So
deviate from that.
so eloquent, son of Lilith. That and absolutely nothing else, right? Persistence and
Yeah,
determination, as
yeah,
his secretary used to say. Israel Regardie said, "Inflame yourself with prayer, invoke often." Right?
yes,
You absolutely must do that. And it's so hard for so many people. Like I said, when I wake up in the morning, it's magic. All throughout the day, it's
hmm
magic. Into the night, when I fall asleep at night, it's magic. And into the fathomless cavern of the mind as I sleep and drift on the clouds of dreamland, it's magic. And it is nothing
yeah,
else.
yeah.
You could, you could call it Tao, you could call it magic.
A lot of people don't understand, including magicians, that you don't do magic. That's only a stepping stone. You don't practice magic. You don't do rituals. You don't no. That's stepping stone. That's only opening doors in your own mind and in the spirit world or whatever else. Those are baby steps. What you're really doing is you're becoming magic to where your entire life becomes a ritual. You are always immersed in it. So there's never not a time that you are acting magically. And people are doing magic all the time, whether they know it or not. It's just magicians do it consciously because people perform magic on themselves all the time and don't realize it. But that's another topic. But I mean that's really what it is you are not performing magic, you are becoming magic. You are realizing that everything is a magical act.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said, man. Good magic. I certainly appreciate that. Like for me, for example, I've joined many magical societies in an effort to raise my elevation above the ordinary average study of the thing to a point where my virtue can project it. And so I'm always looking forward to that, like these types of conversations. And Lao Tzu, again, he iterated that these types of conversations are absolutely the highest form of human interaction.
Oh,
When we just
absolutely.
yeah, when we did, and Jesus said it too. When there are
Yes.
three among you who talk of me, then
I am
I
there.
am there. That's right.
Which
That's right.
completely decimates this idea of, and he says also, my house is not made by the hands of man, which decimates this whole idea of needing hierarchy and a church and all this nonsense. This is what I'm saying. That's what he means when he says the two or more speak in my name, I am there. Well, there you go. Then the spirit is there. You don't need anybody else. That's what I'm trying to say. And they're gatekeepers. They stand at the gates and they do not enter, nor do they allow anyone else to enter. That's what he said. And it's all I did like a 3-hour video going verse by verse by verse by verse by verse, all the times where Jesus is saying there is no one but you and God. Like a 3-hour video going over
Well,
this.
yeah. I mean, this is the first time you've appeared on my channels. Yeah, give us the rundown. I mean, absolutely. This is the truth of life. Like, we might ideate on the past and consider the history of those things, but we don't know the veracity of those. We have to amalgamate those and then prove them in our lives right now.
Right.
And then we always have to calculate, where is our compass pointing us? Where is true north?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I honestly, I was to a point to where I wanted to leave it all behind, to be honest with you. I was trying to get back into trying to understand like pagan roots and all of that. I thought I was completely done with the Abrahamic religions and all of that. And then I got into Magick, and it's really interesting. This would be damn near impossible for people to believe. But
Yeah, it's
it was
fucking
actually the
crazy.
spirits. It was Lilith who
It's
was
like a
like,
Roman candle.
it was
One of
Lilith,
Yeah, one of the
actually.
ways, I mean, one of the, I guess unique ways I was explaining the gospel teaching, is about this idea that I guess separateness is illusion, because every time you see divisions in the whole game, it seems like Jesus is like, no, get rid of that sort of division, right? So, he says, if your right eye, offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. A house divided cannot stand. So when there's division within yourself, it's unmanageable. When there's division within the home, it's unmanageable. Then he says a man cannot serve two masters. So when there's division within the society, it's unmanageable. Then he says, give to, Caesar's what is Caesar's, and to God's what is God's. So there's no division within the entire political structure. And then he talks about God and he says, we're all the children of God. So he says, we're not even separate from God. We have a
That's
one-to-one
right.
relationship with God.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that Jesus actually, cuts down separation on every level.
Yes.
Much like
Yes.
Parmenides or the Tao.
Yes.
We do, and I know Machine Lies. I know you know it. He descends upon us, and he expresses himself through the vast sky, and like a lightning strike into our mind, wakes us up every morning, and
When
the
I-
spirit of our ancestors commune with us. I
When
know
I
you guys
first-
know it.
When I first started working with Lilith, I straight up asked her. I was like, "So you're supposedly like the devil and shit?" I'm like, "They never mention you in the Bible." I'm like, "Lucifer and Satan, those are titles." I said, "Lilith is a name, and the serpent has always been associated with the goddess. So what is this all about?" I'm like, "So do you really have an issue with Jesus?" And she basically chuckled. And I'm like, "It's all imaginary." I said, "It's all man-made." She's like, "Of course it is." And I'm like, "Okay, so what is all this all about?" I said, "And is there really any truth to this Jesus?" I'm like, what's going on with this?" I'm like, I feel like there's something to this, but I feel like the religion is nonsense. And she's like, "Well, if you feel that, then why don't you keep looking?" I'm like, "So I'm not crazy." And so it quite literally, like all these, and you were talking about like, being taught. I wasn't taught anything, man. I was raised evangelical Christian. Okay, I wasn't even taught to meditate. The spirits taught me everything I know about magic, about meditation, about everything. Okay, and you could take that as you will, interpret it however you want. Okay, you were asking like my roots and stuff. Like I was into Shaktiism, which is basically the
Oh,
10
it's good. It's
goddesses
good. You
who
should
are
learn
one.
directly from the spirits.
Yeah,
That's
well,
more
I feel like
powerful.
I
Yeah,
feel it's
it's
the
more
only
powerful
real
than
way. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I dived in deep, man. and I got into Shaktiism. I worked with Kali originally. Kali actually led me to Lilith. That's another story. They're very similar. There's a lot of overlap. They very well could be masks of each other. But anyways, that's another thing. Um, but and then Sophia, from a Gnostic perspective, I see you have Sophia Achamoth and you have Pistis Sophia. Pistis is the Sophia above in the Pleroma, and Achamoth is the Sophia below.
Real quick though, that's like Tang Dynasty pornography right there. He's
Oh,
sticking the radish.
nice. Yeah.
He's sticking the radish into the flour there. Nice, love that.
Yeah.
So classic.
That's always
Yeah, Shang Tzu dreaming he's a butterfly.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Shang Tzu
Well, yeah,
dreamt he was a
Frank.
butterfly. When he woke up, he said, I know not whether I was Shang Tzu dreaming I'm a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming I'm Shang Tzu.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
That's wait. Give me just a second because I can alliterate on that. Do you know the second part of that story? Okay, so after Shingzu said that he was a butterfly, they were walking along the river, and Confucius Kongzi was with him, and Chuangzi said, Shengzu said, "Look at the fish; they're so happy." And Kongzi said to him, he said, "How do you know the fish are happy? You're not a fish." And Shangzu said back to him, he said, "How do you know what I fucking know? You're not me, motherfucker."
Yeah.
Right.
Dropped the mic, and he dropped the mic. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people don't know the second part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've said that to
Facts.
many people on this show here.
Facts, bro. I
I've
agree.
said that to many panelists. How do you know what I know?
Yeah.
Right. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I always approach it like I know what you know, Machine Lies. Like I know that you know what I do not know, and that's why I seek you out. And the same with Lilith. Like you know what I do not know.
Yeah, we have
and
spoken.
That's why
You
we're
may have
fucking
actually-
here. That's
you may
why
have
we're
actually-
here.
You may have actually been on my channel, man. I don't know how or when or what, but I know we've definitely spoken. And I haven't done videos in a long ass time, so it had to have been a long ass time ago. Though I've thought about doing it again. It's just they shadow banned me to the abyss, and I went from like hundreds of viewers to like 6 legit. Everyone stopped getting notifications. But I've thought about it, and I go really hard on the occult because, again, like you, I breathe magic. So I've thought about doing, and they're all live streams too. So yeah, I might start doing that again, and I'll be able to get into a lot of stuff. But
I think
yeah.
you should.
Yeah, I
Magic's
mean,
there.
I'll invite you, man. Like, I also started a Discord. Actually, I'll just put that out there. It's for practitioners, so I don't usually talk about it. But I started a Discord again. I haven't been on there in forever, so there's not really much activity anymore. But it used to be popping. We used to do like group rituals and meditations and all that fun stuff, like tarot, astrology, yada 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 yada. Again, I'm gonna be doing all this again. I'm getting a computer. I have a lot of things that I'm working on. I'm just kind of going through like a transitory period of my life, but yeah. But it does exist. If you want to like stay in contact and stuff, or if you're on his Discord or however.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
because
know
I was offline for a really long time, and then I found a mutual friend of ours, Annapurna, and that's how I came across
Okay.
Machine. I've seen his videos before, but we never spoken. Like I've seen his videos like quite a few times. Like
Can you access
on
the
it.
Discord right now or Twilight? You can invite people if you want. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
do so.
if you could do that,
Yeah.
because if I go into my own Discord, it'll crash my computer. So the thing is that if you could just grab the link real quick and just invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got a Lunar Light Entertainment Discord as well, and I'll post that
Okay.
if I may. And the other thing is, absolutely, like, what
Yeah.
was I going to say? I had a
Yeah, I got all
Prescient
kinds
Falcon,
of like
but I
PDFs on the
forgot it.
occult and all that as well. So I usually keep it for people that are practitioners because it tends to spook people that aren't. Because there's a lot of very in your face, occult, material, like no no holding back, uh, and it's like of all different traditions. So yeah, including the darker ones, clearly. So yeah.
Well, we're right, and the other thing is that we're trying to bring it forward. Like absolutely, like
Yes.
I've seen
Yes.
where the machine lies, and we have synthesized so many things, and now what is the next step? That's always the big question, right?
Yeah.
Like we're here right now, and how do we go forward? And as we go forward, how do we gather energy? Right. So
Yeah.
we're like a rolling snowball down a hill, right? And so we're picking up steam, and you can't let this thing go. Like you said in the past, you had this situation where it was gathering energy, and then sometimes we lose control of it. And that's the essential factor, I think, is that we need to focus these things so direct, like your triangle, like the Ouroboros, and you have the
Yes.
Lucifugian expression of how we see things, and then the eye
Yes.
and the triangle. We need to bring these things legitimately to the people so that they can utilize them as tools, as we've been utilizing them as tools to reflect clearly upon what's going on around us and see through the illusion, see through the machine, see
Yeah.
through. Yeah, and Lilith
Yeah.
came forward to you, the first wife of
Yes.
Adam, right? And
Yes.
Astarte called to me when I was in a
Ah.
desperate
Oh
position.
yeah. I have some connections with her too. That's another topic. Yeah. Uh-huh. The
Yeah,
goddess in general has
do
always been close to me. That's hours conversation, but yeah, that gets into personal stuff and gets into paranormal experiences. Yeah, that's something we could definitely chat about another time, for sure. Because I love that I eat that stuff up because that's when you get into personal experiences that and why I'm on this path. People ask me like, well, why? Because it's fucking real. But go ahead. And because I've never, you would think like, oh, there's all these evil demons. Well, if that's the case, it's been nothing but positive. So
well,
explain that shit.
that's the thing too. We need to always reconnect it in like some sort of legitimate scientific foundation. Like that's why
Yes.
the machine lies is so strong in this. Like as a root, he can bring forward the actual tangible evidence that makes the practice of these things legitimate. Right? We may be natural magicians like son of Lilith. I believe you are. You're a natural magician. You were um,
Yeah.
diametrically attracted to these things, but
I-
we don't necessarily have the foundation in the understanding. Like look at his fucking gift for example, his little headshot there. He's got Damo contemplating. Do you know the story of Damo, this Buddhist guy who he sat there in meditation for 9 years, penetrating his fucking energy into a mountainside and just
Yes.
penetrated it,
Yes.
blasted
And
through fucking pure stone just with his mind,
some
just so
Goku
he could
shit. Yeah.
right, just so he could be admitted to a temple. It's just
Yes.
fucking mind blowing.
Yeah. No, it really is. Yeah, and people don't realize like that shit's not like fables. They really do that, man. And you look at like these Shaolin monks and shit; they're no joke. It's wild. The shit they accomplish.
Well,
It,
well, I think it's a high time for us to go back to the village, and in the
absolutely,
village, I feel like,
absolutely.
art and religion were merged, but it was a special class of people who got to create the art, right? And so the thing is that, the tools of art should not be for the general populace. They should be for the shamans, especially, right? So
Yes,
so so the fact
yes,
is that, anybody who tries to create technology that isn't of a quote unquote,
It's a perversion.
spiritual nature, is going to manifest evil with it. So the thing is that,
Well, this is
we don't control what we create, create without ownership,
no.
work without taking credit, as it says in the Tao. But once you try to control the results, you manifest evil. So the fact is that, what's the next step? I say, why do we have rights? RIGHT. S is because somebody took away our rights. RITES.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? So the fact is that we need to, destroy this wicked system and bring back the village, so that we can harmonize with nature and put the tools of technique, gift it back to
Get
that
back to
special
that.
class of people, right, that actually have the capacity to use it. I mean, so this is a
Yes.
short term, long term project.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
and that makes perfect sense. And
Yeah,
part
the
of it,
shamanic.
like you said, is just giving up. Like you have to let go of the control. You have to let go of the honor. Let go of the achievement. The grasping at it. Right.
Yes.
Just do the fucking work. Like from 19 to 39, that's all I did. I never focused on anything but the Tao and just doing the work without receiving any reward. And
Hmm.
honestly, it didn't fucking work. Like I achieved a lot in my life. I achieved a high position, especially here in Chinese society, in the greatest city in China, at the highest levels of it. But honestly, it wasn't until I returned to my magic, like when I started to invoke the name of God, and when I used a system that took me a lifelong effort of striving to find out what is the secret name of God. And when I found it, I won't reveal it. Obviously, you got to do the fucking work yourself. But yeah,
Lilith knew
big
it.
big power in it.
Li- Lilith knew it. That's how she escaped the Garden of Eden. Just a fun fact. I thought it was funny. It
Yeah, absolutely. And
never explains how she knew it, but yeah.
I hope each and every one of you can find it in your own way.
There's a teaching in that story, is what I'm saying. Yeah, because she's the only one who knew it, and it doesn't say how she knew it. And she wasn't just Adam's first wife, but God Himself's wife. Some of the mythology says. And when you take it back far enough, you realize that she's actually goes back to Mesopotamia, and I can back this up with evidence because I don't want anyone to believe me.
Right, right. And that's where we root everything. That we have to have this like people are so dismissive of everything that we talk about, right? They say, "Oh, religion,
Yes,
fuck that, it doesn't apply." Or, "Oh, magic, fuck that, doesn't apply." Or astrology, or the alignments of stars.
right, right.
Just yesterday, all of the fucking wandering planets aligned in a perfect line. And that means to me personally that Cthulhu has risen.
Yeah. Well, H.P. Lovecraft was a tortured occultist who wanted desperately to be an atheist because he was having visions through the lens of absolute fear and trepidation. And, he didn't want to believe they were real. And that's a really long story. But, that's why they have entire occult systems based upon his work because
Yeah,
he
get
was low
into it
key.
a little bit.
Yeah, he was low key a occultist. And,
Do, do tell.
oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, if you're familiar with Kenneth Grant, he knew the reality of it and what he saw through the Cthulhu mythos and what he described in that is actually the very paradigm that I work with, which is the Qliphoth, which is the backside of the tree of
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
so it's the
See
tree of
that
knowledge.
that's the
Yes,
thing, right?
yes,
When you start to study the tree of life and you aspire to all of those colors of the rainbow that they talk about, right? You get pulled into the reality of the Qliphoth.
yes. And people think that they're separate trees. They're not. The Qliphoth is the roots of the tree of life. So some call it the backside, the invert, the inversion, whatever, the shadow, however you want to look at it. But the fact of the matter is, they're not two trees; they're one tree. There's this distinction, this separation between. Again, I have videos on this stuff like hours long, because this is my bread and butter. Um,
Yeah, it's good
but
stuff. Just
yeah, no,
give
it
us the distillation.
it
The
quickens me, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and really, when you get into it, what it's really talking about is the cliff off is supposedly the aborted worlds that existed before the creation we see now. Okay, so this is
the cast
when.
off shells.
Right, right, and the cast off shells were actually put there in order to shield the light. So this gets into like you know opposition existing within things already, and it also having a purpose. Okay, so this is like the purpose of evil. Now, obviously, it's not evil necessarily. That's why I said it like that. Um, but this idea that the reason there are shells to begin with, is to protect the light from contamination. So it has a purpose. Okay, and so like to use an example, mythologically speaking, Satan, okay, in the Judaic tradition never fell. This is a totally Christian idea, and honestly, it's not even a Christian idea; it's a church idea, because the translation of Lucifer in Isaiah is from Jerome, and it is a mistranslation. There's only one verse in the entire Bible in Isaiah, and it translates, although how has fallen from heaven, son of the morning, blah 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 blah, Lucifer, is it he who didst weakest the nations, blah blah blah,
Here,
and all
hold on
that.
one second.
But it's
This
it's
this whole idea with energy. I mean, just real quick. I mean, I don't know if C-Man is still watching. I really apologize. 8:38 a.m. So yeah, I totally don't know if you're still watching. Sorry about that, C-Man. And I'll send you a message. But yeah, energy. Is talking about key. You know, and obviously all energies are unmanifest within Taoism. That is kind of what I was trying to say. But the fact is that energy is a word created by Aristotle. But yeah, key would be the thing that it's referring to, but it's not the same as Aristotle's concept of energy. But yeah, uh, yeah.
yeah, it's life
Okay, you're still
force.
here. Blessings. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that is a tree there. That's not a furry bush. But yeah, blessings. Yeah.
It's a
And
burning bush.
so
Yeah,
please don't strike us for that. Yeah.
it's a burning bush. That's innuendo. Anyways, that's another that's another thing. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, this is available on Frank Monday's channel. So go to Frank's channel, and it'll be there,
right.
so
And,
so
and you've already closed it on your channel. Is that correct? Machine Lies.
well, it's not that I've closed it. It's just that after 11 hours and 55 minutes, it no longer stores the recording. So I won't
Okay.
have it
Okay.
available. It'll only be available on your channel. So please try to keep that up there, and I'll play it on
Yeah.
the Saturday show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time
Oh,
to
of
answer
course,
my
anytime.
queries, because
Yeah,
I've been so inspired to want to ask you so many fucking
of course.
questions.
Yeah, come
And
by
just with
anytime. Yeah.
no, with work, I'm fucking constantly working,
Oh
and I
yeah,
can
no
listen.
worries. Yeah.
Yeah, I can listen to your shows and stuff, but I can't interact because I got to do classes, I got to do fucking office work and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
excellent.
what a wonderful thing. I'm gonna be off for a month though, so I'm gonna be around a lot.
Yeah, it was a fated meeting, and obviously I wanted you to meet Twilight, so it's quite a synchronous event that he was here as well. I remember because I think he passed out earlier. So yeah, blessings. Right? Gonna a little sippy sip.
Yep,
But yeah,
yep.
blessings, guys.
I got some iced coffee. Uh,
So we have a question by what do you mean by unmanifest? Sal Smith asks. So he's still tuning in, and the unmanifest is the potential energy, right? Those things which have come from above and descended to below that can reiterate themselves. So it's the cyclical nature, I believe, of things that continue to re-emanate. And that's in and of ourselves. We do that, right? We continuously, moment through moment, reiterate into the present.
In
Yeah,
Hebrew, it's called tohu vavohu. In the
yeah. I mean,
beginning, God. In the beginning, the world was without form and void. It's how it's translated in English. That's not accurate, though. What it is,
yeah. I mean, yeah, eternal. Or
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
uncreated. That's another way of
Yes.
looking at it. And another way of looking at it is that the manifestations are part of the Tao, right? So they're manifestations of the Tao, right? So once you have manifestations, they manifest from the source, which is the Tao, right? So, you know, so there's the unmanifest is the Tao itself, right? So
Mhm.
that is the thing that it's trying to get forward. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the pure potentiality before it's taken on any form, before it has any differentiation, before there's any distinction, before there's any division, before there's any categories, before there's anything.
Yeah, I mean, potentiality is an awkward term. What I would say is that the Tao is where the potential is actual. So it's like there is no like there's finally you know pure actualization within the Tao, right? Because say possibilities,
Yeah,
where did what all possibilities exist within the Tao. So
right. With none of them being actualized yet. That's what I'm saying by potential. Yeah, right.
Right. And you guys are somehow overlooking, and I don't mean to be discursive in any way, but
no, please,
somehow
yeah,
overlooking the transient nature of those things, because we're all in transition, right? And
yes,
it's a
Yes.
huge it's a huge thing these days. Like everyone's talking about, hey, trans this, trans that. But the genuine transition is that we're involved in the process. We
ah,
are somehow co-creators. And so we're at the apex, the acme, the pinnacle of where things shift from that to this, right? And so in the
mm,
modern parlance, we say that was Zen and this is Tao, right? So
wow.
there's this great collection of ancient wisdom, and it's what I'm constantly asking, and it's why I came to you originally. Machine Lies is because where do we go from here, right?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's it's the no thing, Sal. That's why I say it's pure potential because it's the no thing. It's all things before they've become anything.
Yeah, and that's why I say, yeah, but especially on the question of where do we go here, I definitely look at, the place, right? Like for example, right? Pay attention to the place where the material and immaterial, the seen and the unseen, actually interact, which is in technique itself, right? So
There you go. There
yeah,
you
so
go. The
yeah,
method.
yeah, so that's why I say, technology and technique. Obviously technology is the extrusion of technique itself, right? So the fact is that you know you know w- y- y- what is the objective, power, and also what is the creative potential, right? So that is one of the main things that I focus people on is the creative element. What is creativity? How does creativity itself manifest, right? And obviously there's this thing that goes beyond creativity, which is technique, right? I tend to focus on those things, so that people can focus on both something practical and something I think metaphysical. And actually my teacher wrote a book called The Metaphysics of Technology, right? And I think that that is a great place to start. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's where the big shift is occurring. I think the people who will benefit the most and give the most benefit to society are the ones who can triangulate and arrive at that assumption. Like, how do we focus all of this into the triangle of art and make the manifestation possible and real that we all know should be brought about, right? Without all of this guile, like you said a moment ago, and maybe named like 3 hours ago at this point, but no, an hour and a half. You said that the entire panel verse is like in a stage of chaos, and I call it the Jerry Springer effect, and that's not what we want to
It's
continue to
more.
generate.
It's
No.
even worse. Yeah, I mean, at its very best, it's like whose line is it anyways? But they went to Walmart to cast the characters there, and then at its very worst, it's like a human centipede with people shitting into each other's mouths, and then
Yeah.
so
Sad.
unfortunately, there's not a lot of guidance, right? But that is the world, and that is when mediation, is itself polluted, and it gives this sort of mental aids, to people. All right, so I mean, it's not, and you could definitely see that.
But yeah, when people like you step forward and Son of Lilith, we need to bring this message somehow. We need to redirect people back towards center so that there is a fruition, a flowering of spiritual ideas and spiritual science. I mean, not just the study of the past, that's a huge part of it, but also how can we re-manifest these things in our lives?
Yeah, definitely. And I got a few things on the bottom here, that I usually talk about, and I've given a little bit of presentations. Actually, I forgot I gave a whole list of presentations on the development of the architectonic throughout history, and I talk about these different forms, intersecting and connecting, but also overlapping, right? About mythos. Here they go at the bottom: mythos, age of symbols, theos, right? There's logos, right, which is the philosophical ideas, right, and mechanos, right. Obviously, philosophy, it was natural philosophy that gave birth to science, right. So this is the whole idea, and I talk about how these are thoughts, matrices, right, through which we've entrapped our own mind, and I talk about the solutions. You know what I mean? I'm talking about getting beyond idols and getting beyond mediation. I mean, and that whole thing. And right. So when I talk about
Yeah.
the Tao, I really focus on this term, unmediated action. I
It's
mean,
funny too, like in pursuing you and bringing the entire ideation of this forward. Like it seems like such a selfish thing to me, because like I know that I can benefit directly from the interaction and receiving this message, but and at the same time, I
matter
hope that others
doesn't
can as
matter.
well.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? It could be purely 100% selfish on your part. Does not matter for me. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I would be doing what I'm doing regardless. I mean, but
And
yeah,
I know that's true too. Yeah,
yeah,
so
the
so
Bodhidharma,
nice.
yeah, yeah, when he turned around to go to the east, and they said, yeah, the emperor said, "Go back and get that man." And they said, even if the whole nation were to go after him, he wouldn't turn back. Right? So, definitely.
The
Yeah,
key
good
to
stuff. Good magic.
the key to enlightenment is thus: carry water and chop wood.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with that expression, but there's a teaching there. It we have
Yeah,
abstractions about abstractions and ideas about ideas, and we lose touch with what is real and what is natural and what is uh you know applicable, like what it's
and you've got to
the
do it too.
simplicity.
Like it's a it's a real thing too. Like you've got to do it. Like you've got to get out there and chop wood and carry water and cook food. Like they said that the
Right.
ancients, they could discourse on philosophy, but they could also like shuck corn and cook beans and do whatever was necessary to preserve life. And see,
Mhm.
that's where we diametrically oppose the people who call this a hell realm. And I know they have
Right.
their they
Yes.
they have
Yes.
their
Thank
yeah
you.
they
Yeah.
have they have their attributes, and they think they're in it to win it, but and it is their virtue in some way, but it's because they're living in the sewer of life. When you step up just a little bit above that, then you realize there's so much more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
was that was deep, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, blessings.
I always say the world system is hellish. It doesn't mean the world is hellish. It doesn't mean that, you know,
True facts.
the natural world is not a simulation. You know, people think they're in a simulation because they live in simulations, whether it's through the Black Mirror or wherever the case may be. You know, they don't touch grass enough. You know, it you're in the natural world enough, you'll realize pretty quickly that it's very real. It's majestic.
Yeah, and to support that, like we have the basic equation of in the Hebrew tradition, we have the Yod He Va He, right?
Mhm.
So the Yod is the fiery plasma that comes down into the mind of man, right? The divine spark. And then the second He is the watery spirit that elevates the arms of man and the shoulders. And the vowel stretches deep down into the torso of man, the breath, right? The air element. And then finally the final A of the equation is his hips or torso and the legs touching ground. And so you have to integrate the higher and the lower, right? The heaven above and the earth below. And people go so far beyond that. They think that we have to have these astral realms of
Yes.
space and beyond, and it's not. You have to start from a basic ground level in order to build up, right? Like a pyramid.
Hmm. This again is what I refer to as the mysterium, as opposed to the mystery. The mystery has to do with here and now. It has to do with the natural world. Even the supernatural is natural when you really understand it. The occult is nothing more than the harnessing and the understanding of the laws of nature, visible and invisible, the subtle energies within the self and within the universe. That is all. It's not some Hollywood uh craft Spookyville. Like that's not what it is. And it all comes out of shamanism anyways. Every religion and every occult, occultism, magic is just shamanism 2.0. The deeper you go into it, and the more you look into the history, that is what it is. It's just adjusted for modern times, and given new paradigms and ways of looking at things. But there really is no separation whatsoever at all. Once you really understand the what the shamans do and what magicians do, it's the same thing, down to astral travel and all these other things. And people go into these astral experiences and they think that it's something outside of them. No, it's not. Or they think that they're somehow outside the matrix, quote unquote. No, you're just in a collective. Now you're in a collective matrix of your own mind, or in the the mind of either your own mind or the collective mind. But you're still in the matrix that you claim to be in. But the matrix is not something that's artificial. It's natural. The matrix is the mother. That's the word comes from ma, ma. Anything ma refers to the mother. That's where you get
Yeah,
mother.
yeah.
You know,
That's such a funny thing. Like my old
matter.
fufu, when I was back in California and I studied under Master Nihua Jing, he told me that the most powerful word in the spiritual realm is mother or ma,
Yeah. Uh huh.
mama. Like if you're in a deep state of trance, like sleeping, and a villainous spirit sits upon you, like a demonic succubus, he said if you call out to your mother, it will
Yeah.
disperse it immediately.
Yeah. Because she's the creatrix, and that was the understanding before all these other religions took over. That was the pagan understanding. That was the, you know, it's been with us from the beginning. Going again into shamanic times. You know, um,
With that said, what would be your take on the idea that there are now 72 gentrifications and the
oh boy,
dispersion of these things?
oh boy,
Yeah,
Doc.
it's a tough topic, but we have to face these tough topics as we go forward. Because if we do not, they will, right? If we leave the space empty, then other voices will fill it. So it's like,
Yeah,
for me personally, natural law, spiritual law, universal law
yeah,
distinguishes two genders,
yeah,
man and woman.
yeah,
Just the Taiji, just the
yeah,
yin yang. That's all there is.
yeah. I would say this. I'll be nice. I'll be nice, which or I'll be kind. I don't like nice because nice implies deception. Um, so I'll be kind. Okay, gender is a social construct. I'll give them that bone. Biological sex is not. There are two sexes, male and female. Gender is a social identity. They can identify as whatever they want. It doesn't
Fair
change the
enough.
biological sex. It doesn't change
Fair enough.
biological sex. Men cannot give birth. Men cannot have periods. I don't care what they say. It'll never happen.
Right, like tampon Tom, you can put all the fucking tampons you want in the men's bathroom, and they're not going to be bleeding out of their cocks. That's just not a
Right,
real thing.
right. And I know people that are part of the LGBTQ, whatever the fuck, that actually would agree with that. So this is actually a minority opinion that is political in nature. That ironic, really truthfully speaking, um, uses that movement as a shield. So it's not even really them. It's that really believes this nonsense. It's they 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 do what they always do. They hide behind things and they want to add another letter to that alphabet. And it's a Trojan horse. It started with gay rights, and I'm gonna make it clear. I respect anybody for what they want to do with their lives in the comfort of their own four walls. You know, whatever. I'm not at all, bigoted in any form or fashion.
Absolutely, I agree with you
Uh,
100%.
just stay away from kids. Um,
Yeah, hold on, guys.
and
You
this
guys
is
hold it down for a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab
and
that
this is what I'm talking about. The extra
link.
letter they want to
Yeah,
add.
do your thing.
Because
Do your thing.
it started with gay rights, and there's a group called Gays Against Groomers. So I'm like I said, they hide behind the shit. It started with gay rights. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I support that. Okay, that's fine. Uh, Gay people deserve to be just as miserable as heterosexual people. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's tough shit. You don't even know. Like
So
me, I've been married 25 years. Yeah, don't endeavor to do that unless you're strong.
that takes a special kind of enlightenment, my friend. Anyways, but jokes aside, um, th- uh, you know, they're trying to sneak the P into the alphabet, and they've been doing this for a long time. They've been planning this for a long time. They're trying to sneak every form of debauchery that would make Crowley roll in his grave. Um, People talk about he's evil, like what they, and this is like UNICEF and what they're teaching children. You have like the drag queen story time and all this nonsense. Because apparently, I guess they're like trans now. I guess you don't have to actually be trans. You just got to dress up like a woman. And they're just like, oh, it's part of our culture. It's like, yeah, if you go to like a stripper gay club or something, yeah, that's part of the culture. For adults, yeah, uh-huh. And then you find out they're like all convicted, like sexual offenders and shit. And it's like, yeah, and they're reading children's stories or teaching church and be ye transformed. Like, I actually saw someone teaching a church service to a child, trying to use the Bible to justify uh, transgenderism to a child and saying, see, isn't our God wise? He knew that people would decide one day that they wanted to be something else and da da da. I'm just like, are you fucking serious, man? This is crazy. Um, you know, and yeah, it's social engineering. It's Marxism. People call them the left, the liberals. No, they're not. They're fucking Marxists. That's really what they are. And that's what has always been at the root of overturning moral values. And we're talking about like the degeneration of society and all like that's the root of all of it. Like, people talk about all these different groups and all that. You can understand all that to your you know uh blue, and speak about all that to your blue in the face. If you don't understand the root of it all, it's almost worthless. um so like we were talking about way earlier about how, like, who rules over you. Well, what really rules over you is an ideology, and that ideology is uh, what's known as the World Revolutionary Movement,
Well,
cultural Marxism.
and I would like to address that for a moment if I could.
Yeah,
Like, that's the thing of the path of the magician, which I know you
y-
study. You are
of
a magi.
course.
It's about
Yes,
breaking chains, right? So
yes,
the for a magician, karma doesn't rule over you. The
right,
zodiac doesn't rule over you. The
right.
five elements do not rule over you. Society does not rule over you. That's the path of the magician. We take
Yes,
the upward central path and we break through. We may deviate left or right, but we break through all chains that bind us. And that's the essential
this
truth.
this is also true, and this is something I try to get through to people. But since most people are absolutely allergic to anything magical, because it's evil, it's hard to. But I would say, like, but I at least try to say, like, look, we are the
I
ones
lost
with
the
the power.
transmission. Can you guys still hear Lilith? Hello? Give me
We
fives if you can hear Lilith.
we are the
Your
ones that
connection
are.
broke.
Uh-oh.
So my main point here was that the the pathways of the Magi are just that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if Frank can still hear us. Frank, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah, I think Frank lost connection with us, Lilith. So it's not you. Yeah, Lilith, it's not you. It's Frank. So
Oh,
uh, yeah,
okay. Can you hear
yeah.
me
Let me
now? How am I
yeah,
here twice? That's
yeah.
weird.
Let me tell Frank. Frank, it's you. Frank, it's your
Okay,
audio.
am I back? Yeah, no.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
I,
doppelganger. Okay,
my
yeah, I
connection
Yeah, for
my
sure.
I would
connection broke.
Yeah,
I
it's no
would
worries.
agree. I would agree with you, Frank, and this is why I try to. I mean, I don't try to turn people to occultists because I know that's a fool's errand, um, and I wouldn't do that anyways because as a magician, I respect everyone's liberation, and the last thing I want to do is tell everybody what to do because it's completely antithesis to my nature. Um, but I try to tell people, like, hey, if they scream about what's going on in the world. It's kind of like, well, when you're at war, if you have a weak enemy, you don't throw everything with the kitchen sink at them. You don't poison their food and poison their water and poison their air if you don't have an enemy that's you know, worth all of that. You don't come at an enemy that's weak with everything that you got. You don't pull all the stops out. I said, so if that is the case, and it clearly is, then that means that they fear us. So if they fear us, that means we have power. And if we have power, then that means we should utilize that power, not by picking up arms and doing anything stupid, but by simply not complying with their edicts, because it is consensual after all, at the end of the day. So instead of screaming and yelling about all the things that are going on and how we're powerless, realize that actually, no, we're not. We have all the power, and we just need to stop playing the game. It's really that simple. Stop participating. But most people just, it goes over their head. And they're just like, well, what do we do? You know, how can we do this? You just stop. Look through history, you know? You just stop. Like, it's really that simple. You say, look,
Yeah,
this is
it's
not
such.
real. It's illegitimate. It has no legitimacy on the face of it. The entire system is fraud from beginning to end. It's literally
Yeah,
word
yeah.
mapping.
It's such
Yeah.
a beautiful message too. Like we need to find those things which with we can go forward, right? So we need to dispel the illusion,
Mhm.
and I think that's what you're tying into.
Yes, that is the spell, quite literally. Well, I mean, when you get into like maritime admiralty law, and like it's legitimately sorcery of the most subtle level. Even the way they have us use words and shit, like they mean one thing to us and another thing to them. That's why laws outside of the original powers of governance that were given, uh, are called codes. That's why when you go to court, it's called a summons. That's why there's so many things people take for granted, and it's not by accident. Like there's a reason why law is called legalese. It's legitimately another language. It's yeah, we'll be here forever. And you get into the straw man, which is basically a sigil. It's not you. It's a legal fiction. So yeah, yeah. It's sorcery, quite literally.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like we need to genuinely need to dispel these things from our side without the usage of their systems because
Yes.
we can recreate and manifest our own systems that are better and far superior and
Mhm.
are rooted in the understanding of the past but utilize the present to go forward. So like there are so many variables in the future and nobody can predict them all. So as long as we dial in to the correct path, then we can catch the wave, as it were, and get tubed, right? If we use a surfing analogy, and come out ahead. And that's what we need to do. We need to lead the way. We need to come out ahead, right? So many of these panel chats are taking the direction of the Jerry Springer effect. And
Yeah.
this particular triangulation has achieved so much more magic than any of those could ever like postulate to do, right? They're so far in the background, and it's not about comparison, but in some way it is. Like it's so competitive, right? So we're we're bringing forward so much more value in synthesizing these things, but at the same time, how can we compete?
Yeah,
Well,
my solution is to level the playing field. I mean, in terms of the technologies, and I could greater talk about what I mean by that, but you know, seems an inopportune time to do so at this juncture. I mean, but yeah, but it's been a fascinating conversation with you guys. And there's no good place to leave it. But I do have to step away from the computer for a prolonged period of time. So I will not be able to attend this conversation,
Good
unfortunately.
man, and thank you for your time, and thank you for entertaining my questions. I really appreciate you,
Of
Machine
course.
Lies.
Of course,
Blessings
yeah, and
to
I'm
you,
here
sir.
for you anytime. We got the Discord there, so please feel free to reach out. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here on Saturday.
Okay,
I don't know if
good
Lilith
man,
will be
good
here, but
man.
I definitely will. But Lilith is available in the Discord there as well. So
Yep.
so
And let
yeah.
me
And I
say too, Happy New Year, because as I left work today, like everybody was like, the Chinese New Year's coming up, and I'm like, what the
Excellent.
fuck are you talking about? Happy New Year? You missed it. It
Excellent.
was like a month ago, and
Yeah.
so going forward, the year of the snake is coming upon us, which means little dragon, right?
Yeah.
We passed from the dragon into the snake, and the snake is supposed to bring big money to everyone. So be looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. For saying that because I am in a deep level of poverty right now.
Oh shit!
Yeah, yeah, especially since I'm moving to Ohio. But yeah, the thing is I told the audience that I'm not going to be here for 12 hours, yada yada yada. I have insomnia. Fuck all of you. Blah blah blah. And now I'm here for
G-
14 hours. so
Yeah,
uh,
give me
so
your
I'm
PayPal. I'll send you a hundo.
well, there's a cash app at the bottom of the screen, but there's no need to send that much money. Please don't. I actually forbid you from sending that much. But
Oh shit!
please, take care of
I would
yourself.
I would
Take care of
feel
yourself.
humbled to do so. Yeah, thank you,
No,
sir.
no, that's only for donations only, and all of those go towards other charity cases, such as myself, and also to equipment for the show. So so there's no need to contribute to that. For anyone, it's not a necessary thing. But I am here for you guys. Another at least 9 to 12 hour show we'll do on Saturday night, similar topics. And yeah, please feel free to reach me. There's also my email on the channel for anybody that's interested. But yeah, I'm here 2 hours over the stream time. All right, but I'm sure this tape will be available at Frank's channel. All right, so you guys please go ahead and I mean you know yeah, go ahead and subscribe to Frank's channel and go and watch the rest of it there if you missed some of it. But yeah, the thing is that I bet with the donations, even we barely got enough to reach the payment for the StreamYard. It's $400 for the StreamYard. So mainly what we're doing is recording here, right? It's not about
Wow,
gaining an audience. It's not about doing any of that stuff. It's just recording. So
wow.
that's why I got to cut people off, and say, "Oh, look, I'm just gonna read for now," because and I don't mean to do that, but the fact is that I'm always here for conversation. I didn't want to do a 15-minute cut and run thing, with you here, so I wanted to give you a good amount of time. But yeah, blessings, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And good
Of course,
magic.
anytime. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. But peace out, friends. Lilith,
yep.
Frank. Yeah,
Bless it, man.
yeah. Let me end this stream here.